So we're now live.
Okay. I'm trying to see. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our second workshop as the mentorship stream of YLC. Let me acknowledge our chairperson, Trifosa Ramano, and some of the YLC mentorship committee members, Pumla and Charmaine. Welcome. I think like we always do in these sessions, first I'd like to just recap on why we are here and what the objective of the mentorship program is. So our objective is to build and encourage future women leaders by providing a very holistic approach to mentorship, which is both formal and informal. The informal part is, of course, you being matched with your mentors. And the formal part is what we're having today, which is supposed to focus on giving you a practical leadership toolkit as a mentee that you can use as you navigate your personal and your career goals. So today is quite relevant because, like I said, one of the things that we want to do is to provide you with a leadership toolkit. And we're honored to have somebody who can give us some key tools for our toolkit. At the moment, I'm reading a book called The Leader Who Had No Title. I think it's by Robin Sharma. And I'm finding that it's kind of dispelling some of the thoughts that I had on what leadership is, because it really tries to emphasize that the need for us to lead wherever we are planted and shine wherever we find ourselves, instead of thinking about leadership maybe as being reserved only for those who have fancy titles, or maybe in the case of this current group, older people. But I'm no expert, right? So lucky for you. Today we've got an expert. I'll do a very, very short summary of Mr. Nomvalo's CV. He's currently the CEO of SAICA. Previously, he was the CEO of the State Information Technology Agency for close to 2 years. He also served as the Accountant General of South Africa for 9 years, where one of his highlights was working with 18 Caribbean countries on the behest of the Commonwealth from 2009 to 2011. And there he was tasked with improving risk management and internal audit functions. His passion for leadership inspired him to initiate a program at National Treasury that benefited the majority of top management. He was fortunate to be invited as faculty at Harvard Kennedy School on art and practice of leadership development. He served on various boards of directors on behalf of the National Treasury, including Urban. He represents the employer in the Board of Trustees of the GEPF and the Political Officer Bearers Pension Fund. He represents South Africa in the International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. He's also responsible for overseeing the regulation of the audit profession and was instrumental in drafting the Audit Profession Act. He served in his personal capacity in the Advisory Council of the University of Pretoria's Economics and Management Science faculty. Mr. Nomvalo, thank you for agreeing to give us some of your time today. So what will happen is that Mr. Nomvalo will take us through the section. We're going to be a little bit flexible, so you can raise questions, clarifications, comments on the chat. And if they're relevant for what is being discussed at that particular point, we'll raise it. But we'll also leave some of the questions till the end. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Zimkita. I will share the notes that I'm going to use in this discussion. Just tell me if it's showing on the screen, please. Is it showing?
Yes,
It's showing.
Okay. Today we're going to have a conversation around the whole notion of leadership. And my biggest concern and reason why I'm here, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, is my belief that South Africa can be a better place if all of us in this call, me included, can exercise leadership more often than we do. And the most important asset we bring to that is ourselves. Hence that small print there which says, let go of who you think you are supposed to be and embrace who you are. It's an important thing to think about. But for the just a few minutes, Zintle, if the attendees can just quickly on the chat button type their name and what is their expectation for today. Just the next 4 or 5 minutes, I'm going to watch those, and we'll be quiet for a moment as we receive those, and then after that, I will then start the conversation. Do you mind doing that? Just all the participants, the people that are on the call, please just your name in the chat box, as well as your expectation for today.
Mr. Nomvalo, can I ask you to put the presentation on presentation mode
Okay.
so we can have the slides bigger?
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So I saw one person was saying expectation. What is a? Can you read them for me as they come through?
So we have one from Ms. Trifosa Romano, and it says, what is a typical leader?
Yeah.
And just waiting for more. We have
How do
one
I-
from Nomkosi.
Oh.
It says, I would like to gain knowledge. We have one from Ms. Pagama, to better synthesize the so-called African leadership style versus Man 101 Western style.
Mm-hmm.
We have one from Kama. It says expectations to talk about ethical leadership, especially in the context of South Africa, and what makes an authentic leader. From Lufuno, my expectations for today is to learn how to apply myself as a leader. From Rifilwe, to learn about the future of leadership. What does a leader 10 years from now look like? From Given, we have learning how to best define, oh, they're coming in fast. Learning how to best define one's leadership style and whether one is supposed to change according to the context. From Karen, we have expectation is to be able to manage being passed over for promotions over male counterparts. Women constantly are put in leadership programs without decision making. From Ati, we have how can I collaborate as a leader? From Robert, we hear a lot about courageous leadership, but what is this concept? Also, how do we improve ethical leadership in our country? And that's about it for now.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's a beautiful list of things there. Now, let's then reflect for a moment. And this is the reason why exercising leadership is difficult. Now, if you can imagine whether it's possible in the next 2 hours to fulfill all of these expectations with one act, if it's possible to fulfill all of these different expectations with one activity. And we're going to come back to that because I wanted this as a backdrop of something that we're going to talk about later. So it's a Saturday. I could be playing golf. You could be playing golf. You could be taking your kids to the park, well, to the extent that the restrictions allow. You could be having breakfast with your family. You could be doing all manner of things, and you are anywhere else, but you are here, and not anywhere else. You are here. So there has to be a reason you are here. I've already said my reason I'm here is because I believe that if all of us in this call, all of us, me included, were to exercise leadership more often than we do, South Africa will be a better place. Embedded in that statement is already an acceptance and a realization that we don't exercise leadership most of the time. Embedded in that statement is that we don't exercise leadership most of the time. So it begs the question, then what is this leadership thing? So the next thing I want to make an assumption about is why you are here. And I've put some thoughts around my guess why you are here on this Saturday morning. For people like Trifosa, Charmaine, Zimkita, Pumla, it's probably pretty much clear that the statement is correct. There is an aspiration that they have. They believe that women need to occupy an important space in our society, and they don't. And as a result, there is a reality that is happening today that women are marginalized, and there is an aspiration that women also have to occupy space in our society like everybody else. So it's very clear to pick it up from that group of people. But also, even with the people who are participants who are mentees today, they also have an aspiration either to better themselves, better their careers, or better their families, better their relatives, their community, their church, or even make South Africa a better place. And all of those things stem from the realization that the current reality is not what we wish. We are not happy. We are not content with the current reality. And that gap between the current reality as well as our aspirations is a leadership opportunity. It is that beacon that's calling us to do something. And I've already said, I believe if all of us can exercise leadership more often than we do today, it would be, South Africa would be a better place. So we are here to learn about how then do we do that? What is this thing called leadership? And we can move from there. I approach the subject of leadership from 5 basic assumptions, just as a way of trying to understand what leadership is about. First, leadership is not a person. I always even have this thing when people talk to me, people, you know, in South Africa, especially if you've worked in the public sector, if you are a DG, people don't call you by name. It's DG, it's CEO, it's chairman. I hate that with a passion as it applies to me. I prefer to be called by my name, Freeman. If for cultural reasons, you don't want to use my name, Freeman, because you have to respect the elders, then I prefer that you then use Mr. Nomvalo, so that my head doesn't get too big for no reason. So leadership is not a person, it's not a position, it is an activity. It is something that we do, and we do it some of the time and not all of the time. Okay, so it is an activity. And I would like you, challenge you to begin from now onwards, when you refer to people, never refer to somebody as a leader, but refer to them with their names or whatever else you would want to, but never refer to something you call a leader. Because even though we refer to people as leaders, a mayor, a president, a CEO, a DG, a teacher, a preacher, we often complain that there is no leadership when things go wrong. I'm now in KZN as we speak. I was supposed to drive back this afternoon to Joburg. I can't drive back to Joburg this afternoon because there's chaos in the streets. And I bet you people are saying, where is the leadership? Why can't we stamp this thing out? Why can't we stop it now? So, but we still have a president, we have the commissioner of police, we've got the premier, we've got all of those people whom we call leaders, and yet things do go the way they are today in the presence of those people. So it then begs the question that when we actually talk about leadership, we often yearn for something more than just a person, more than just a position, but something that gets done to make our lives better. So I want you to think about leadership as an activity of mobilizing people to face their most difficult issues. Mobilizing people to face their most difficult issues. And we'll talk about some of those issues in a short while. And then the next thing I want you to think about as you think about leadership is that you can exercise leadership from any position, from anywhere. You are a mentee as you speak. The person who's mentoring you can learn from you. You're not the first person in the family, you're a child in your family, but your family can learn to be better from you. So you can lead your family to a higher level of understanding of things. You can lead your community to a higher level of existence by the things that you do, irrespective of the position that you occupy. Now, Zimkita already talked about Robin Sharma's book, A Leader Who Had No Title. He talks about these things because he recognized that there has been significant shifts, significant improvements in the lives of people, in the lives of organizations in different parts of the world, not because the CEO did anything wonderful, but because somebody within that organization did something great. In South Africa, a very great example we have of that scenario is 1994. When Chris Hani died, Nelson Mandela was not the president of the country, he was the president of the ANC. You may argue that he had a significant position. De Klerk was the president of the country. But we had peace, we had stability when Nelson Mandela appeared on television and said a foreign man possessed with hate visited our country and killed one of our own, and then appealed for calm. And South Africa is where it is today because of that significant moment by somebody who is not in a position of authority, who is not in a leadership position as we normally speak about it, but somebody who was just an ordinary member of society. A number of organizations have done so as well. Martin Luther King was not even a leader when he started challenging the church in the olden days. Not Martin Luther King Jr., but Martin Luther King in Rome puts a lot of posters on the doors of the chapel to challenge the authorities at the time in terms of the practices that they were having, and made the changes that you did. So you can exercise leadership from any position. The position that you occupy comes with certain resources which perhaps enable you to exercise leadership, but also it comes with certain constraints on you in your ability to exercise leadership. And I will talk about that in a short while. But the constraints come as a result of expectations. The constraints come as a result of your own personal interests, your own loyalties. I'm the CEO of SAICA. Whether I'm happy or not happy with the salary I earn, I will not do anything that's going to jeopardize my job, and I end up in the streets and not earning that livelihood. So that is a straitjacket. That is a constraint. I can do all of the things that I'm expected to do, but I will not be able to disappoint those expectations and do what is right for the organization. Because when I do what is right for the organization, it might not be aligned with what the board thinks. But it might not even aligned with what the members of SAICA think. Okay? So members might say, we don't want anybody that does anything bad. And then one member causes a problem and we have to discipline that member. It's going to cost a lot of money, and members are going to start saying, you're wasting our money. So Yes, I'm in a position of authority as the CEO. I think they expect me to do these things, but when I start doing them, something different may happen. So you can exercise that from any position, because the positions give you the resources, but also they give you the constraints. It's not the position that enables you to do that. It's the sense of purpose that you have. And we'll talk about the sense of purpose. Leadership doesn't happen all the time. We exercise leadership some of the time, we don't some of the time. And I like making an example about Nelson Mandela and something that is definitely not an exercise of leadership that people claim he did. So please don't quote me, don't put it on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. It's about illustrating the point, because I'm not sure if the people are telling the truth. But it is claimed that when Winnie Mandela was facing charges about the case of Stompie and all of those issues, Mandela felt strongly that she should be given a break because she's contributed into the struggle, blah, 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 blah. There is the person. We know he has exercised leadership on some occasions. There we found him doing something that is less than exercise. So you exercise leadership today, you may not do so tomorrow. But the trick here is to do it most of the time. Not all of the time, but more than you were doing before. If you do that, we'll have a better country. But why is it that we don't do so? It's for two reasons. One reason is that it's difficult to exercise leadership. You swim against the tide. You challenge people's values. You challenge people's well-kept beliefs. For instance, if you think about the when Jacob Zuma was voted out of presidency with a vote of no confidence, that exercise happened 8 times. The 7 times before that, the same people on the 8th time that voted him out were the same people who voted against him being taken out 8 times. Why was it possible for that to happen? It was possible for that to happen because there are loyalties, there are interests, there are cultural issues, there are behavioral issues, there are attitudinal issues that were at play. Those people were saying, let's deal with this problem. They were trying to challenge us to exercise leadership, and were resisting all the time, until obviously there was a public protector report, and then the 8th time the people voted him out. So it's difficult. And those that dared to challenge the status quo, those that dared to raise the questions, were called names, were attacked, were marginalized, so it is difficult to exercise leadership. Imagine telling your father that, listen here, Dad, yes, I know that traditionally my mother had to cook and do all of these things. I have a career. I don't think I should be spending time cooking, but my brother, who doesn't do as much as I do, should be the one that cooks and cleans the house. Can you imagine what can happen in that family? So it's difficult. And you might not even want to do that yourself because you hold your parents in such high regard. So cultural issues again. So it gets difficult to exercise leadership because you're going to have to call people to face their demons. It's also dangerous because you also are leading people to let go of what they're familiar with, to let go of their current practices, to learn new practices. And that is a sense of loss of familiarity. Or there may be somebody in the space that you are trying to exercise leadership in who was always there and always the go-to person. He was always the go-to person. And that person was the go-to person. All of a sudden, you come in and you these wonderful ideas, and the attention shifts from that person to you. That person loses the spotlight. And that person is going to resist with everything. Okay? Have you seen in a community, you agree as a community that let's do this thing because it's going to be good for the community. Let's have a police station here because there's a lot of crime in our area. When you've agreed on that conversation, it's okay, let's have a police station. And then all of a sudden, the police station must be built, and it must be built at a certain point. And all of a sudden, people are saying, not in my backyard. You can be, we want the police station. I didn't say put it here. I said put it there. And then those people again going to push back very, very hard. We have to fight fraud and corruption in South Africa. Those are some of the challenges we face as a country. Those people that are benefiting are going to fight hard. The ANC believes that if you are accused of corruption and so on, and you are charged, step aside rule. And you've seen for yourselves what then happens. People are taking the ANC to court for the rules they have passed themselves. So it gets difficult as well as dangerous. Arresting Jacob Zuma, his son Edward said, over my dead body. He's prepared to fight back for that to happen. So exercising leadership, doing what is right, that which can take society to another level, is always a difficult thing. And then I challenge you to think about one person in any place that you've worked, wherever you've worked, private sector or public sector. Think about that one person who was very smart, who was always having great ideas, whom everybody thought, goodness, this is the future leader of this company. And again, think now, how long did that person last in that organization? How long did that person last in that organization? So I'll leave it at that, and then move on to saying opportunities to exercise leadership are abound. We always come across those opportunities. Even in this call, there's an opportunity to call something that can help us to have a better conversation. But we hold back. We don't exercise that opportunity as often as we do. At home, where you live, in your community, in your church, in your work, where you work, with your friends, there's always an opportunity to make that association, that group of people, a better group of people. There's always an opportunity. Do we pass on those opportunities, or do we exercise those opportunities? If we pass on those opportunities, we are then making the status quo to prevail forever and ever. And it's important that we do so. And having said it's difficult to exercise leadership, it's dangerous to exercise leadership, you can learn the skills that would enable you to exercise leadership smartly. And hopefully, before we finish, I will have covered some of those things that you can do. But leadership skills can be learned. You can actually purposefully think through things that you can do to exercise leadership. Now, if exercising leadership is essential because you are challenging people to face their most difficult issues so that they can make progress on those issues, and it's actually a dangerous endeavor and a difficult endeavor, how do you spot the dangers? How do you tell that what I'm doing is likely to get me into trouble or is likely to undermine the mission that I'm driving? There's 4 things that you need to think about. One of them is called marginalization. In the marginalization, we are here because we want to further the opportunities of women to play a meaningful role in society. We are here because of that, and Zimkita has indicated that. Now, if in an organization you are known to be the person who's passionate about women issues, whenever strategic issues are being discussed, nobody listens to you. And then when the women's issue comes up, they then all keep quiet and tend to you to have to be the one that has to carry that burden of discussing that. That's a way of marginalizing you, keeping you where you should be belonging in women's issues, not in driving the progress of the organization. But the other way you get marginalized is when we work, we want resources. We want to have a bigger budget so that we can have the resources that we do. We want people to come and work with us. And I assign somebody to come and work with you. When I assign somebody to come and work with you, I get to have eyes in the project that you're driving. So when you are asking difficult questions, or you're not even sure that you're asking difficult questions in an organization, either you find yourself being given a particular aspect of what the organization deals with that you are passionate about. Yes, it's good for you to be given something you're passionate about, but if it becomes only about that issue when it comes to you, then you are being marginalized. Better start checking whether you have been asking questions that make people uncomfortable. And then if you've been asking questions that make people uncomfortable, then the chances are you are being marginalized. You are not just being given an assignment, but you are being marginalized. As well as you are given somebody, you are not just being given extra resources, but they want to understand what's going on. Think about it this way. You are working on a project. As SAICA, I will use a project where we see that African kids are failing more than the white kids are passing the exams. And then I say to Robert, there's the project, please drive this project. And then Robert doesn't give me any feedback because he believes he's not ready to give feedback. And then I say, no, it looks like you're struggling. Let me add some people to work with you. He may have actually even indicated that he needs additional people to work with him. I then assign somebody to work with Robert. And then that person that works with Robert, a few weeks later, I can go and sit down with him, with that person, him or her. Say, hi, Charmaine, how is it going? How are you enjoying your new working with Robert and so on? And how is Robert doing? Now, Charmaine is going to share more than Robert would be willing to share because she doesn't see the reason why not. I'm the one who assigned her to the assignment and so on. So that gives the person who wants to push you out of your game line of sight in what is happening. I'm not saying that's always the case, but when these things happen, you better start asking yourself a question. Have I been asking difficult questions? Diversion. We all want to be challenged in the places where we work. We all want to be challenged, especially when you are young in your career. You want to be given responsibilities. And they keep adding on your responsibilities. Now they are adding because you've been asking difficult questions. They give you more work, and you are excited because you wanted to be challenged. Now you are challenged. But the problem is you are now tired every afternoon. You are exhausted. You don't have even time to read through. You don't have time to send an email to ask questions about things that are unfair that are happening in the organization and so on. Or you get given an unexpected promotion. And with that promotion comes additional responsibilities. And they make sure in those responsibilities, you've got no way of asking the questions that you need to ask. Again, when this happens, start asking yourself a question. Have I been asking difficult questions? Do I need to take the foot off the accelerator? Do I need to press ahead? Or you get sent on a trip. Okay, you've always wanted to go to this conference and there's a conference in Dubai. Goodness, you get taken to that conference, but halfway through you realize, wait a minute, actually, there's a meeting coming next week where we're dealing with some of these issues. You're not going to be away, you're going to be away, and the decision is going to be taken. When you come back and the issues are dealt with, you start raising the questions you are raising. No, we've decided on that, we've passed that issue already. So diversion takes some of these things where you can get given more responsibilities, get more and more challenged, but you are actually being taken out of the game. Attacks. It can be a personal attack, a physical attack, character attack. You always deal with a particular issue, and then when you talk, say, oh, she has started with her own issues. This is not about that, you know. And then physical attack, where they can actually physically beat you. The roads are blocked here. Or character assassination, where they talk about who you are and the things that that you often do. And all of that is meant to take you off the game so that you deflects you from the attention of the issues you need to be dealing with. And the last one is seduction. And we use this term seduction because it's politically charged term. But all of us want to be praised, want to be told we are good, want to be told we're doing the right job. The whole incentives of growing and developing is all about incentivizing a child to continue to do the right thing. So good boy, good girl, and so on. And this, by the way, becomes such a part of our DNA that we crave it. We would really like to hear people telling us that being reaffirmed. Sometimes with that comes the expectation that I've just said to Zimkita, she's such a great woman. How come then is she now attacking me on this issue? So I actually praise you, not because I mean it, I praise you because I want to silence you when it comes to me. So it's an important thing as well. When people start praising you, you say, I know that I'm great, but I'm not sure that I'm this great. So you've got to have your feelers on. And there's a term that some people say it's an aphorism that tends with the one who brought you. Because sometimes you find people who are not part of your allies, who are not part of the people that you socialize with, and they are the ones who are now praising you and say you're such a great person and so on. You start wondering, wait a minute, where does this come from? All of these things are things that do happen in the normal course of business. But when they happen and you are raising important questions about the organization, you need to begin to think about what it means and whether are you not asking too difficult questions. And then so that we can wrap up and have more discussion, in order to lead and survive, and I'm jumping to the end of the theory that I'm talking about. In order to lead and survive, you need to build certain relationships in an organization that you're working in. First relationship you need to work on is the relationship with allies. And the kind of work you do in your relationship with allies is very different to the kind of work you do with the opposition. Your allies, it's easy to think that people are with you when they are not. So people will always, you're having a meeting and there's a discussion and you raise a point where you challenge the CEO or the main person, the main peanut in the pack, and then people come out of that meeting and they praise you. Yeah, you did well, we support you, blah, blah, blah. You just need to test that. You need to know that these people are with you for sure. So allies are an important piece because that's where you're going to have a liberated zone. That's where you're going to have comfort and so on. But you need to be sure they are allies. They are not just saying it. So challenge them. If they say, oh, we agree with you, blah, 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 and we did well to challenge the CEO, then say, okay, wait a minute. Maybe we need to do a petition. Can I count on your signature when you petition this issue? And all of a sudden, the person is going to find something else to do. Sorry, I'm going out for lunch. I'll talk to you later. And so that person is not an ally. So when you are thinking about allies, make sure you know those people are behind you. Because there will come difficult times when you need those people to speak up for you, and they will not be available to speak up for you. And there will come a time when there are issues you want to raise, but you are not the best agent to raise those issues. And those people that are your allies are the people you can rely on to actually raise those issues. Because sometimes you fail at your endeavors, not because you're not good at what you're doing, you're not explaining yourself well, but you're just the wrong messenger. So allies will come in handy in all of those instances. Opposition, the people that disagree with you. If you take your allies to lunch all the time, you're wasting your money, especially when you are driving a change that is important in an organization. The people you need to take to lunch, the people you need to dine and wine with are the people who disagree with you. And the reason you want those people is because if the mission you are driving is important to you, you then need to minimize that opposition. You can't minimize the opposition unless you know why they oppose you. And you shouldn't think that you're going to know why they oppose you by knowing it from your perspective. You need to know it from their perspective. So staying close to your opposition is an important activity that you need to do. Losers. Any change that you drive will have people that benefit and it will have people that lose, that do not benefit. And those that lose, that are going to lose status, that are going to lose money, that are going to lose livelihoods. In some instances, for instance, an issue that you are driving may lead people to lose jobs. You need to understand who are the people that are going to lose. What is it that they are going to lose? You must be very, very specific about what you think they might lose. And then what are you going to do to mitigate their loss? You are not going to abandon the mission. You're not going to abandon what you want to do. You still have to drive the mission. You still need to restructure the organization. But what is it that then you do to help them so that they have a softer landing? Because if they've got a softer landing, they are less likely to resist the change that you are driving. So the losers are absolutely important. Do you need to retrain the employees? Do you need to provide something they call for instance, when you think about ESCOM closing a plant and so on, but what is the social compact that comes with that? What are the things that you need to do to make that community still benefit and not lose much? There are jobs in a certain area because you've got an ESCOM plant. If you're going to close that ESCOM plant, what do you bring there so that that community doesn't lose completely? So the losers in any endeavor that you are doing are absolutely critical to think about and think about how you're going to deal with them. Authority, the people that you report to, the people that are in charge of the organization that you run. They may support you in what you're trying to do at first. And then as you go through the project, they begin to show signs that they do not quite agree with what you are doing. It doesn't automatically mean that they have abandoned you. It may well mean that you've put too much pressure in the system. There are people who are going to lose, who are predisposed to the people in authority, who will then push back, and they want to punish your authority. And then those people fearing for their own well-being and so on might start saying, listen, let's talk about this issue next week. Let's talk about this issue next week. And now you're beginning to wonder, is this person still supporting me or not? So those in authority, when they begin to change their attitude towards you in relation to a project that you're driving, that initially they were supporting, do not automatically assume they have no backbone. No, life is complex. They have got things that they are safeguarding that affect them personally. And if you can deal with your project in a way that mitigates that problem for them, then you're going to be successful. Contrarians. Contrarians are those people in an organization, when they speak, everybody closes their ears. They say, oh, she has started again. You know those people. They are in every organization. They always ask the difficult questions. They always point out the hypocrisy. They always raise these difficult questions. And they are always marginalized. They are always the ones that the chairman of the meeting will shut them down. Can you find a way in which you become a voice for those people? You become a way of moderating their issues, or of diplomatically raising their issues so that that opinion is not lost. Because the blind spots in an organization, the blind spots in the project that you may be driving will arise if everybody agrees with you. And the last relationship is the most important relationship, is a relationship with yourself. A number of aspects in relation to this. The first one is be careful of the things you do, because they'll be used against you. Be careful of what you share with your allies, because they will use that against you. So you need to be very, very careful about how you hold yourself out in an organization. Most importantly, have somebody that is a confidant. A confidant is not an ally. An ally is somebody who agrees with you. A confidant is somebody who doesn't care whether you succeed or fail in the things that you do, specific things that you do, who cares about your well-being, you being okay, you being healthy, you being fine. And generally, your confidant is not going to be somebody that is in the organization. It may happen, but it's not going to be somebody in the organization. And you have those people, because when it's difficult and you're trying to drive the change that you want to drive, and you find it difficult to make the progress you need to make, and to think people are unreasonable and so on, you can talk to that person. And when you talk to that person, you'll say, no, I know you're saying these people are difficult, but my friend, I know you. I know you, my friend. You are a very difficult person. Maybe you must change and not them, because that is going to be the moment of reality that you find when you then have the opportunity to talk to your confidant in that way. And also, you look after yourself. Exercise. Take time to recharge the batteries. Take time to recalibrate the system. it takes different forms for different people. Some play music, some go to the movies, some go play golf, some go on holiday. Whatever it is that helps you to recalibrate the system, do that. It's absolutely critical because you're going to burn out. With the COVID-19 problem at the moment, we're having increased incidents of people that are really burning out, that are really frustrated. So looking after yourself is an important element for your success in a leadership endeavor. Finding time to exercise, finding time to take a break, finding time to reflect with confidence and all of those things. That is absolutely important. Now, if you're driving change, it's difficult, it's a dangerous endeavor. Nobody will want to do it unless there is something that they believe in. There is a sense of purpose. You need to stay connected to the purpose. But don't take all of the responsibility upon yourself. If you take all of the responsibility upon yourself, then people are gonna be happy to leave it with you. Mobilize people. We said leadership is the act of mobilizing people to confront their most difficult issues. You're not confronting their issues for them. You're mobilizing them to confront their issues. So there's no need for you to shoulder all of the responsibility for leading. You need to build that network that's going to help you in terms of the relationships I was talking about. Negotiate the ethics of leadership and purpose. Calculate potential damage, calculate what is the potential damage to others. What are the people going to lose? Assess the damage to your self-image. Don't think about whether the means justify the ends. Some people think about those things, but keep your purposes alive. Find ways in which you keep your purposes alive. Something that you read every morning, reminders, stickers that you put on the fridge, that you put on your book, on your laptop when you switch it on. Have rituals, the things that you regularly do in order to keep yourself connected. If you do some of these things, you increase the chances of your success when you lead, but also you reduce the chances of you being taken out. Hello, Zintle.
Hi, Mr. Freeman. We
Can
can
hear
hear
you.
you, see you.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm saying I'll stop there and then entertain the questions from the persons in the session. Anybody can raise questions, please.
There was one from Given, while Zinhle looks for
Yeah.
the others. The question was, how do we best deal with marginalization so that it doesn't divert us away from the real task or even quitting?
Yes. Marginalization obviously takes the form of you being given somebody to work with you, as explained. One of the things that you do when you get given additional people to work with you, you can set parameters of the conversation early on because you don't know. You can find a smart way to set the parameters and say, listen, in order for us to be able to have the space to execute what we need to execute, let's have one way of communicating what needs to be communicated up, and so on. So you can do that as a way of just managing the communication channels. But secondly, build your own relationship with the person that has come, that has been seconded to come and work with you. That's going to be absolutely important because if you don't have your own relationship with the person, then the person will use the other relationship that he has. And then the one that gets difficult, because we all human beings, is the one when they assign you responsibilities on the basis of your passion. I think you need to have a much more open conversation with your superiors in terms of your career expectations and so on. And you need to make sure that it's clear that while you may be passionate about one aspect, you want other things, so that you can prevent that from happening. But when it does happen, and you are now in the middle of that, you then have to start doing what I call is thinking politically. And what I mean about that, thinking and acting politically, what I mean about that is you need to go back to those 5, 6 relationships I was talking about in the space that you are operating in. Because now you see, look, there's marginalization. You need to make sure that you are clear who your allies are. And you are very, very sure that those allies can back you up, and you can use them to start pushing for some of the things that you want. You need to be clear about your opponents and try and dissuade them from opposing you. You need to have a better relationship with the authorities. Like I said, your expectations, their expectations are clearly defined, and there's constant engagement with them. The casualties, if it's not too late, try and make sure that the people who are going to be casualties in your endeavors are taken care of. They know that you are aware of their plight and all of those things. So those relationships will come in handy, because it is those relationships you're now going to manage. It's a political game at that point. You've got to play the political game. I know people say, I'm not a politician, but hey, politics is about influence and power. And influence and power is needed anyway in society, whether in the private sector or public sector. You do need to influence, you do need to have power. And those things then will be the things that help you. And of course, if you've been a voice that is protecting the contrarians, they're going to stand with you. So those are some things you can do to build that cushion that will help you when you then come up and fight the issues that you need to fight. You will not be alone, because if you are alone, you'll be taken out.
Thank you. There's another question from Bali. She's asking, is it not discouraging not being people's favorite person? Because when you make certain decisions, certain people will resist and will despise you. You know, you're talking to ladies, Freeman, so this is an important question.
It is. By the way, it affects all genders. It's just that in a male-dominated space, we tend to look after each other, and then everybody else. It's if you are somebody's favorite person, there are upsides and there are downsides. And the downsides are when that person leaves, you are exposed. So you do need obviously to be in people's good books. There is no doubt about it. But when you are in people's good books and you are almost all your chips are dependent on that, then you are in trouble. One of the things that would help you in that space is that you've got to know the subject matter. Whatever it is that you are working with, you've got to know. Make yourself indispensable, so that even if people say, well, it was Maruna's person, but they will say, we know why Maruna wanted this person next to her, because she's good. So it's absolutely an important issue that if you find yourself in that space, you then try and build better capital for yourself, relationship capital, which extends beyond the person that you are that person's favorite. It gets really difficult, and people will despise you. But if they know that you actually care about them, you care about more things than just the person who likes you, irrespective of you being that person's favorite, they will also identify with you. So it's important. Again, it goes back to building those relationships and being who you are, not what you think is supposed to be.
Pumla, are you seeing the other questions? I'm struggling here. I see them pop up and then I don't know what happens. There was
You
also
don't
a
know where to find
question.
them.
Yeah. There was a question from Triforsa. How can you
Yes.
advise young people who are on a journey to leadership and learning about relationship matrix?
Yes. You know, what you guys are doing for people having a mentor is absolutely, absolutely critical. Because the mentor is often somebody who's experienced things. His or her life is not going to be the same as yours. But the things you are experiencing, that person may have experienced. So that person will share his or her experiences with you, and it helps you to understand your circumstance. It's never going to be the same. So that's the first thing. You need to make sure that you've got that. Of course, the confidant I spoke about. But secondly, you've got to invest time in learning, self-learning, not just the formal things that you do, just wider than that space. You work with human beings. You work with people who have got emotions, interest, wishes as you do. And when, as you grow up in your career, you demonstrate that you are your whole mission is about understanding how you help while yourself, it helps build those relationships earlier on. Am I still audible?
Yes, you are. You were just cutting for a
We lost
moment.
you for, yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. So it helps you build the relationships if you also work in a particular way, a certain way of working, where you recognize people as human beings who have got interest, wishes, and aspirations as you do. And in whatever work environment where you are in, your whole orientation is trying to make the next person successful. That orientation, you might think that it takes a lot out of you. Actually, it opens a lot of opportunities for you. So you have a mentor, know the subject matter, but also over and above, work in a way that enables others to succeed. Because when you do that, you're already building that capital for yourself. And do that not because you want them to support you, but because you genuinely want them to succeed. And it builds a much better traction in that relationship. Also, be realistic. There are people who will never change. Okay, there are people who will never change, no matter what you do. Okay, be realistic about that. Accept the reality that that is what it's going to be, and then you are able to walk away from those circumstances if the ability to walk away is there. Or if you have to take harsher action, you are able to take that harsher action because it's justified. So you need to have that balance where you are embracing, but when the circumstances demand, you can also be a difficult person, so to speak. And don't be predictable. Don't be predictable. You know, I always tell bosses, I was talking to some guy I worked with at National Treasury. We were abroad and we're having a braai with other South Africans. And then he started talking and says, you know, Freeman, I always find you calm when you talk to your people, but they've done nonsense. But you're not shouting at them. I said, because shouting is a sign of weakness. And I am not in a position of weakness. I'm the boss. If I have to fire them, I will fire them. And I don't have to fire them while shouting. I'll say quietly and say, listen, hey, pack your things, go. And they will go because I'm the boss. So, but there are times when shouting helps shake the system a little bit. Okay. So keep it at the back as a weapon. So use it to your advantage. Don't use it to your disadvantage.
Questions are coming in thick and fast.
There should be some comments as well.
There's
But
no,
let's go.
I'm commenting on, I'm just giving you the questions because the comments are also like double of what the questions are.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Arzwane is saying one of the things that gets to, oh, sorry, dear Babu Freeman, one of the things that gets to me is the issue of seduction. How do we deal with this so that it doesn't distract us? At times, as people practice seduction, we can find ourselves falling for the false praise they may give. On the opposite side, how do we deal with those line managers who only listen to us when we praise them first?
The ones who listen to you when you praise them first, I'll start there. And the ones you listen to, who listen to you when you praise them first, they are predictable. They're exactly where you want them because you can manipulate them the way you want. Okay, it looks like there's a buffering on my side. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I think it's
there was a bit of buffering. I'm gonna switch off. Oh, I can't even get the big screen here. I'm gonna switch off the camera so that I possibly have better. If I find, okay, I'm not gonna be able to. That's fine. So I'm saying the one person that wants to be praised too much, that one is a predictable one. Give more of that praise each time you want something. Just keep dishing it out and get what you want. Because the idea when you drive a project, you want to succeed. So don't do anything that undermines your thing. Now, when people seduce you, they praise you and it's unwarranted. At times you should actually say, call them out. What do you want? Okay. What do you want? I hear you. What do you want? But try and make it clear that that's not what you are about. That's not what you are always expecting. So you try and water it down somehow, and you will learn over time. And by the way, the one thing about leadership is that you sometimes often don't know. I don't have the answers to all the questions. So I've got ideas on what you can do, but the experience and the person that you're interacting with will teach you what exactly to do. So you can start experimenting about pushing back on some of those praises when you think that they are unwarranted, and try to moderate that in some way. And I think that would help stand in good state over time.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Oh, okay. There was just a bit of cutting there.
Yes, there's a bit of a network issue on my side. Yes, now and again.
Oh, okay. Okay. There was another question that disappeared. My goodness. There's someone who's just asking for you to just touch on the difference it's given. Touch on the difference between opposition and contrarians again, just to reiterate what that difference is.
Okay. The opposition are the people who disagree with you, with your viewpoint. You're putting a proposal for something to be done. They take a different view. You say, let's go left. They say, let's go right. It's not something they necessarily do all the time, but at that moment, that's the position that they've taken. It's not necessarily in every instance, but contrarians are people who often take an opposing view to the majority. They're often the people who say something that is a minority view in a group. It's not about you, it's about the whole totality of the organization. They are always taking a different stance generally. So contrarian is organization-wide, but opposition is somebody opposed to your views, to your ideas, to your way of thinking. But contrarian is somebody who's that way to the organization.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm missing some questions.
Yes,
There's
you missed a
something
lot.
from Ati. There was something from Ati. It pops up and then I don't know where it goes. Oh, as a lady, Mr. Freeman, as a lady, I'm a very empathetic person and find it
Yes.
hard to fire people when they're not being productive, mainly because I think the impact of them losing a job. Mainly because I think about the impact losing a job can have on them. How do I handle that?
You're going to leave.
Okay, it's cutting.
Take casualties.
Am I the only one struggling?
You can't hear me.
Humla?
Hello?
No, he's back now. I was struggling earlier. Can you start
Can you,
over
can you hear me? Yeah. So I was
Yeah, we
saying,
didn't hear the
the first part?
yeah,
of
I'm
your
saying
story?
the thing about accepting the responsibility to lead is also to accept the response that you must have stomach for failure as a starting point. When you lead, you're going to have many, many moments when you're not succeeding. But the purpose that you are driving is going to keep on urging you to move forward. Now, having said that, if you are too empathetic, it's not a bad thing per se, but you should also be willing to take casualties. And the only way I rationalize it for myself is that when a person doesn't do what he's supposed to do, it's not me who didn't do what I was supposed to do, it's him or her. So the reason this person is being fired has got nothing to do with me, but it's got everything to do with them. Because your empathy takes the character of taking responsibility for their failures. No, you shouldn't take responsibility for their failures. They should be responsible for their own failures. You are responsible for empowering them, for helping them as much as you can. That's how far you can go. So the minute you frame it differently, that they being fired has got nothing to do with your cruelty or kindness or anything like that, but having everything to do with them. It is that difficult discussion, difficult decision that you've got to make. But when you make that decision, you know for sure you have done everything on your power to empower them, to help them succeed. They have let themselves down. If you think about it that way, it's most likely that you will find it easy. Hello?
We lost you towards the end there.
Yes, I was just saying that you will find it easy to fire people if you accept that they being fired has got nothing to do with you, but everything to
Okay.
I think it's still
I believe
buffering
we've
on his
lost,
side.
yeah, we've lost Mr. Freeman.
Hello?
I think maybe we should turn the video off. I don't know if it will help. Hello?
I've switched off my side. You can switch off your side as well.
Trying to.
Yeah. Let's see whether it makes a difference.
Okay, now we hear you perfectly.
Yes, okay. So the last statement on the last question was that they being fired, those people that you are firing, the whole question of them being fired has got nothing to do with you who are firing them, but everything to do with them. You do everything in your power to empower them, to help them succeed. When they don't pick up the baton that you are giving them, they are firing. Their consequence of them being fired is not because you are unsympathetic, is not because you are a sadist or anything like that. It's because they have failed themselves. If you frame it with those kind of language, you will find it relatively easier to take that action rather than putting their responsibility on your shoulders.
Okay. Then Trafosa's asking, can you please unpack ethical leadership for us? We hear it often, but not practiced.
Okay. First, starting from the premise that I move from, where I say leadership is not a person or a position, the whole notion of ethical leadership for me, when there is leadership, I think there will be ethics. Okay, so as a starting point, when you are leading, when you're actually exercising leadership, there shouldn't be anything else called leadership other than what Trifosa is referring to as ethical leadership. So when you talk leadership, you should be talking about somebody who also does something the right way. And it takes different forms at different places. The way to think about it, to think about doing the right thing, is following a framework that a guy called Roger Stair uses to think about ethics. Roger Stair thinks about ethics using the acronym RIGHT, okay? And RIGHT stands for, R would be for the rules of the game, the rules that are applicable to the situation. Do you know what those rules say? Do you follow those rules? Do you work in accordance with those rules? Okay. I is integrity. Are you acting with integrity? Are you doing things as you believe, as you see them? Right? And then G, the things that you're doing, who are they good for? H, who are they harmful to? And what is the truth? So if that frame guides the actions that you take in any situation, your leadership endeavors will most likely lead to doing the right things. In other words, being an ethical leader who is driving progress for all rather than seeking recognition or progress for self. I hope that is helpful. But using that right framework in thinking about what is right and wrong is absolutely critical, because it helps you to begin to say, the thing that I'm doing, I am convinced that it's going to be helpful to the people rather than harmful.
Yeah. Okay. Then Art is asking, if you have your own startup company, how do you drive leadership?
Sure. That will be difficult for me. I think from the beginning, when you start that company, and you begin to introduce other people, it will be difficult, because you have to pivot from making all the decisions to creating a space where people are part and parcel of decision making, while still directing the things as you wish them to be directed. When issues begin to arise, if from the beginning, as you build the company, you create that culture of collaboration, of working together, of a good governance decision-making process, you will then build a culture of leadership within that organization. But if you continue to operate as when you started, while you were alone, then you will kill. I think it's the guy who was at Microsoft who said that we hire smart people so that they tell us what
me again. Pumla, Zinhle.
Yeah, we've lost him again. You just need to give him a few minutes to
Oh,
get.
okay. So we lost him on the Microsoft code.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yes. I was saying the guy from Microsoft is dead now.
Yeah.
Used to his soul rest in peace. Used to say that we hire smart people so that they tell us what to do, not for us to tell them what to do. So as you build the organization, recognize that you've employed people because of the value they bring to the organization, of the knowledge they are bringing to the organization, and you nurture and enable that to flourish rather than suppress it. That way you will build an organization that has got people that are readily prepared to exercise leadership than you would otherwise.
Okay. I don't know if I've missed questions. The rest are yes.
I see you missed one of my questions. So that is why I thought, let me just ask. Freeman, hi, how are
No
you?
problem.
Hey, fine, thanks for yourself.
Good. This is very, very interesting. I just want, because there's a thing about bad and good leadership, ne?
Yes.
You always hear that Hitler was a great leader.
Yes.
Because he was not afraid to make decisions, make unpopular decisions, even though he killed a lot of innocent people.
Yes.
I just want to unpack that, especially navigating around that, especially
Yes.
talking to young people.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Foster. So the premise from which I move is that you don't have bad and good leadership. You have leadership and you've got everything else that is bad. So Hitler may have done some things. For instance, one thing that I still think could have been an act of leadership with Hitler is that, you know, the car Volkswagen. The Volkswagen was a car that was made by Audi because Hitler said, we need a car that ordinary Germans could drive and afford. To this day, when you drive a Volkswagen, check your service record. Is the cheapest, it's among the cheapest cars to maintain. That's Hitler. That's a leadership thing that I would say probably came out of Hitler. Remember, I said leadership, we exercise, it's episodal. We exercise it some of the time and not some of the time. So, and again, I don't ascribe leadership to a person. So I wouldn't call Hitler a person, but I would call that act that he did as it pertains to inspiring the production, the innovation that brought about the car Volkswagen. That was an act of leadership. All the other things about killing the Jews and so on, that was bad. That was not leadership at all. So coming from the frame that I come from, where I don't attach leadership to a person, attach leadership to a position, it's easier to define Hitler's phenomenon because you can isolate those actions of what he did that made society better. And those things that he did that took away from society than making society better, i.e. killing people. So if you use this frame of thinking, you are never going to call somebody a leader. You're going to judge them in accordance with their actions. It is their actions that will tell you, are they leading or are they not leading? Sometimes they will lead and sometimes they won't lead. Does that help?
Yes, it does help. Thank you.
Yeah, that's quite helpful. Never really thought of it like that. And then Karen is
actions,
asking, Karen is asking, how do you navigate getting a corporate sponsor who will be your voice behind closed doors?
I think we're having technical issues again.
Yes, we're having technical issues. I was just calling Zinhle. Trafosa, did you hear anything I said?
We
Did
heard
you hear
you.
anything I said about?
Yes.
Yes,
About
I said,
4%.
yes, I responded. I said, it actually makes sense. Thanks. It's all about the
Okay.
actions.
Yes, yes. It's about what we do, not who we are and where we are.
Did you hear my question from Karen?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Karen was asking, how do you navigate getting a corporate sponsor who will be your voice behind closed doors?
It goes back to the building of the relationships that I was talking about. Because when you exercise leadership, like I said, you may not be the right messenger, and you need to realize and accept that. So for some of the things, if you've built the relationships, you can then get some of those people to help you move the message. You don't even have to like skinner with them, no. But you can create a relationship, mutual relationship that enables you to say, what do you think about this, and so on and so on? Would you be able to raise it or whatever? But you have to build the relationships. And when you build those relationships, identify the people that you're going to need. Some of them, you might identify them and say, this person, I would like this person to be a corporate sponsor, but it might not work. And then coming to thinking politically, you know, there's one thing that's very interesting about politics and give and take, is that for all intents and purposes, some of the people that Cyril has to use in his cabinet are people that he doesn't like or he doesn't even agree with. But he has got a bigger mission of running South Africa, so he can't afford to have those people sitting on the periphery. As the saying goes, them standing outside pissing in. So rather they stand inside pissing outside, excuse the French. So some of the times you may compromise or you may support initiatives by other people that they want because you expect them to support you downstream. So as you interface with people in the organization, you also need to think about what mission do you want to drive. When people come to you asking for help, are you prepared, even if you disagree with the issue they come up with, are you prepared to support them in order for them to support you? It doesn't mean they will, but that's the game. That's the political game that at some point you may have to play. Integrity will be absolutely critical when you do this thing. The issue of ethics, again, is going to be very critical when you do those things. So think about that right thing I was talking about, and then you can do. And there are questions according to Roger Steer's framework that you can use in thinking about that situation. So if you face with the situation and you're trying to build these relationships, and then something comes forward that you need to support, you then need to think about it's going to affect other people. How would I feel if I was in those people's shoes? Is this thing fair and reasonable? Would this be the adult thing to do? Will it build trust and respect? So you've got a way and a frame that enables you to make the decision that I don't agree with the subject itself, but because I can tick these questions, I can support it. So it's not just about supporting that person, it's also about acting ethically. So you can use that to build the rapport and the support that you need. Because people, if you've supported them, they would want to pay back. It's natural with people. So use that to your advantage.
Okay, I'm not sure if I missed the question because the rest that I'm seeing here are more seduction about how profound the session is. People are agreeing about how relevant it is. Thank you. So if you're having a bad day, I think you might want to check out some of these comments. They'll pick up.
Okay.
they'll pick up your mood a bit.
Oh, lovely.
Generally, I think people are, I think for a Saturday morning, we are quite enlightened.
Yes. What we can do is that because the whole framework that I'm talking about has got a lot of pieces, is that we can create a LinkedIn group of everybody that's in this call. And we continue the conversation in there.
That should be awesome, I think. I think
because
that
then we can build further, and help people further as they grow in their career. Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk to our technical advisor, Zintle, and then we'll see how we can set that up, because I think people have a lot. Again, I saw a question, it popped up now, I don't know, wait, from Ati. Ati, I think if you can, I don't know if it's possible for you to just ask the question. I saw a question and then I didn't see it anymore. But I think generally people are saying thank you for the session. We've learned a lot. This has been helpful. I think even me, I echo those comments. I've got so many notes here. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
There's quite a lot to think about.
For further reading, if people want to understand this is a book. I am friends with the author of the framework that I've been talking about this morning. There's a book called The Practice of Adaptive Leadership. The Practice of Adaptive Leadership.
Okay. The Practice of Adaptive
Leadership.
Leadership. Okay.
It's an easy book to deal with because you can read any chapter. You don't have to read chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. It's got 5 parts. The first part has got 3 chapters. You can read all of them because it gives you the theory, and then the rest of the book gives you the practicalities of different things. And then you can pick up any of the chapters and read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kama Toba is saying that there's been increasing coverage of the shortcomings of leaders during the period of the pandemic that suggests that this may be due to the failure of leadership teams to uphold moral code or to show compassion. How do we become leaders who come across as leaders who care and are not concerned about productivity or profits, etc.?
That's a brilliant question, but it's a personal a question that she needs to engage with. Everybody, in fact, not just the person who raised it, including myself. That's a question we all need to engage with and keep answering for ourselves in terms of what that means to us. Let's then go back to the beginning, the five basic assumptions. I say in the 5 basic assumptions, leadership is not a position or a person. It's something that we do. I say anybody from anywhere can exercise leadership. I say we do exercise some of the time and we don't some of the time. I then say there are always opportunities to exercise leadership. And this question goes to the opportunity to exercise leadership, because I was talking to the Department of Health last night about the improving the efficiency of rolling out the vaccines and what can be done in that regard. And there's some things we're thinking about that we can work together to make happen. So there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for us to mobilize even society to say, guys, we can't have the money for the PPE being stolen and the nurses are exposed. I mean, it's surprising in South Africa. We've not had a march. When this, of course, with the pandemic, it's going to be difficult. But we're not even having an online outcry that keeps hammering this issue, so that those that are leading the ANC, those that are in the authority position in the ANC, can then begin to say, wait a minute, if we don't respond to this thing, we're going to lose votes. You know, in a number of elections that have passed by in the past, I've speak with my friends and I say to them, who are you going to vote for? They say, who else is there to vote for? When there are more than one political party in the ballot box, it shouldn't be so easy for the ANC or any party to get anybody's vote. They should work for it. So some of the things that we can do, may be too distant, and change takes time to happen. It's incremental and all of those things, but we need to start thinking about what can I do in my area. Is it a Facebook post? Is it a LinkedIn post? Is it organizing a few people that are like-minded? How do I accentuate the voice that ensures that in the midst of this pandemic, we are able to emerge as an active society that holds government accountable? People who vote ANC, they're like soccer players, soccer fans. No matter what, they'll vote it. You know, your soccer team, no matter how it plays, you wear their T-shirt. It shouldn't be that way with politics. Otherwise, political parties will take us for granted. I'm saying so being a very active member of the ANC. But I'm saying if we take people for granted, we should not be voted in. And people just say, no, am I going to vote for the DA? And so maybe vote for the DA as a punishment to the ANC.
Yeah, I think it's something that you struggle with. You just sometimes you feel like you're so small and the problems are so big. What can you do? But there's another quote. I think it was a quote about if everyone swept their front porch
in front of their
then
door.
yes, then the whole world will be clean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That one vote, and if you stay away, Zimkita, and not go and vote, the impact, if you go and vote somebody else, the impact is double than when you stay at home. If you stay at home, the impact is they lose that vote.
Yeah.
If you go and vote, they not only lose the vote, that vote boosts somebody else's.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
So the impact is actually double if you go and vote. But people, they just stay at home.
Yeah. Especially these young ones, but we've got them on the call, so even if one listens, it's fine.
Zim, Freeman, me, I like the Machiavelli leadership style.
Trifosa, please tell the group what is that.
Yes.
Please expand so that the group knows what that is.
Oh, Machiavelli, you know, there is the 48 Laws of Power. That is the book. It's more political in the sense that there's a rule number 2 that says, if you do not have an enemy, go create one, because your friends are more likely or envious of you to betray you quickly, but your enemies will always keep you on your line. Is the opposition thing that Freeman was talking about. So that it's rules. Law number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, it's like never outshine your master. It's more about the tactics of leadership when you're dealing with it.
Thanks.
Mr. Nomvalo, there was a question here that was interesting. I think I just missed it. When you said that his leadership is an activity, it's not about position. What about, I think I've just lost it, but what about, tone from the top? When they say, you cut off the head, then you lose leadership. So how do you kind of correlate it to that? Oh, she said, why do we have the saying, it rots from the head?
Oh, yes. One leadership is not a position.
Yeah.
While leadership is not a position, and in fact, Bob Garrett, he's like Mervyn King here in the UK, wrote a book, A Fish Rots from the Top. It's a corporate governance book. While leadership is not a position, the tone at the top is important because that's where the direction comes from. We've deferred a lot of the decision-making to the top. And if the decision-making at the top is not the correct decision-making, and that's got nothing to do with leadership, because those decisions could be routine decisions. In fact, in most cases, they are routine decisions. And if those decisions are wrong, those decisions are going to create more problems. So the hierarchy of things still applies, even though it's got nothing to do with leadership. And you can still mess up in that space, and we do mess up spectacularly.
So also there's a in terms of being a human being, we also lead by seeing, right? So such as, you know, the American system, you have the nucleus family, you have the first family, and you kind of, society must mirror that. And that's why you need to be perfect when you're at the top. You need to do the right thing, be ethical, don't be corrupt. You know, the things that we think that are supposed to be normal. In South Africa, do you think we are leading in that direction in terms of a broader leadership view in our country?
Probably, Pumla, that's why the Americans are in trouble and they ended up with Trump. That's probably the reason why they ended up with Trump.
Yeah.
And they can't get themselves out of that situation. Again, you shouldn't move. And if you think like me, because we don't think alike, if you think like me, you stick to saying position is not leadership. Position gives you a better platform from which to lead. It gives you a better platform from which to lead. So I wouldn't want my kids to behave the same way as our former president behaved, but he was the leader of the country. So we shouldn't look at those people as examples. We should look at those people as just one member of society who may be.
Oh, did we lose you?
Yeah, we just lost him.
Well, just give him a few minutes to get back on. This is such an interesting topic. You can
Very
speak
interesting.
about it the whole day.
Yeah. I've got so much notes. I don't even know where to start.
I have the same. I've got so many thoughts and views. I feel
We
like the
must-
conversation,
Yes.
we might need a part 2 of the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's make it a series.
Yeah.
Because I think that LinkedIn is also going to be important, because I think as I reflect on the notes, I'll probably have other questions. So it might
Yeah.
be easier just to post them.
Yeah,
Because
but let's create a series.
yes,
Yeah.
I think this
Yeah,
debate
no,
about
this-
position and tone is quite a key one.
Yeah.
To those set
I
of
don't know
values.
about
Can you hear me?
Oh, you're back.
lost.
We lost
Yes,
you.
I'm back.
Yes.
Yes. So let me finish the point.
Yes,
I was
please.
saying it shouldn't be the people in positions of power that we seek to emulate. It should be people who meet our value system, who meet the value system we want society to follow. So, as opposed to people in power, because I wouldn't want my kids to follow the example of the former president at all.
So is it
Especially-
not, but it goes to what you were saying, that it is up to, I guess, maybe society or us to see the values not being correct. So it was either a mistake on the leadership of the ANC to allow that type of character to be in a powerful position that people can view as something to emulate, because when you are in a powerful position, people do think that they should emulate you because they aspire to be you or the position or what it is.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a conflict between the two, wouldn't you say? Because exactly what you said, Trump was kicked out because the value system was just defunct and people just didn't want this anymore. But they didn't trust the previous leadership cycle either, because people were doing things that were incorrect. So they just wanted something new, in my view. And Trump was something new and different, but it just didn't stick to the value system.
Exactly. But the irony is He's done so many things that those people's values are against.
Yes.
He treats women poorly. He says funny things about religion, but it is the fundamental religious people that support him.
Yes.
So loyalties and interests drive these connections as opposed to values. Loyalties and interests drive these connections as opposed to values. So when you think politically and you're thinking about something you want to drive, you also need to think about what are the loyalties at play? What are the interests that are at play? Because those things will make it difficult to find traction on what you do. People will resist. That's why the ANC resisted 7 times to take Zuma out as president of the country. It was the loyalties, it was the interests, it was the culture.
Yeah.
But the values are nowhere in all of those 3 things that I'm saying. Of course, they valued something different to what we valued, because values is about that which is important to us. So what was important to the ANC at the time was unity, and that's where the mistake that Cyril Ramaphosa is making, where he seeks to drive unity. Unity, you must be prepared to take casualties. You must be prepared to take casualties when you lead, because not everybody is going to be happy and shouting. If you are dealing with an intractable problem and you come out of a conversation and you say there's a win-win, then there is no solution. There is no leadership-inspired solution. When there's a leadership solution, somebody will give something in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
There will be some sacrifice, there will be some loss to be experienced. And that is what makes it difficult. That is what makes it dangerous. Again, going back to the points I was making earlier.
Thank you.
Okay. I see one last question. Can you elaborate on the seduction techniques and how they can be used during negotiations? This is from Ati.
Yes. Look, one of the person we work with Robert, who asked the question earlier about the both sides of this thing. You have in a meeting, let's say we're in a meeting with Trifosa, and Trifosa has got a nice red lipstick that she's put on. She's gonna notice that and talk about it. I do it sometimes as well. I see somebody wearing a blue dress and I'm wearing a blue dress. I notice that and I say something about it. I normally fall short of saying it's gorgeous or good or anything like that, but just picking up something that will break the ice, okay, will create the conversation. You learn it over time, but you pick up those things, but also understand the person. Robert said the person he was talking about actually craves being appreciated, such that he uses that, and I said use it. So you will learn and different people will appreciate different things. So always be attentive, remember what people appreciate, and then if you really want to get your way with them, to push the agenda that you want to push, you know which buttons to touch. Leadership is manipulative.
I think we apparently you don't skip a year to wish people happy birthday.
Who, me? Yes.
That's from
Yes,
Charmaine.
We had 3,300 employees. I worked with Charmaine at CETA. We had 3,300 employees. All of them, they will get a message from me on their birthday.
Sure.
3,300 employees, I didn't miss any one of their birthdays. Even if it's on Christmas Day, I will do it on my cell phone.
That would make me so happy.
Fun?
I would love that.
At SAICA now, far less number of employees. I wish them birthdays. And you know what's strange is that every one of them in the first year you do it, they say, you know, a CEO never wished me a birthday. Can you imagine the power of that?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's very
It's
good.
just a simple thing. Happy birthday.
Apparently, you're still doing it with people that you don't even work with anymore.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, some will become friends. Some will become friends. Charmaine, please don't give out secrets now.
She can do it on the LinkedIn group.
Yes, on the
I think-
LinkedIn group. Yes.
From my side, I think thank you very much. But I'll hand over to Pumla to do the closing for us. But it's from
Thank you very much,
from
and
me
thanks for the
personally,
opportunity.
it's been a Saturday well spent. Pumla.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Mr. Nomvalo. We really appreciate Nomvalo, sorry. We really appreciate the time. It's been such a tremendous morning. I've got so many notes. My mind is racing. You've given us so many nuggets of wisdom this morning to think about, to kind of introspect and try and see what type of leaders we can be and really become more self-aware. As you said, you need to look at what your loyalties, your interests are, versus what you're really trying to be as a person. Are you an ethical leader? And what type of leadership do you want to emulate as well? So it was so apt that Zimkita is reading the book, The Leader with No Title, by Robin Sharma, because as you said, there's position and there's you, the individual. So for me, I think you've brought it all home for us with your notes and your words. And there's nothing more I can say, but let's put that LinkedIn group, because I think this is a type of conversation that should continue. And it's something that I think triggered all of us, because some of us are in leadership positions, some of us want to be, and some of us know leaders who are doing right and wrong things. And we're in a country where there's a lot going on in terms of leadership and what we'd like our country to look like post the pandemic, during the pandemic, and so forth. So thank you. It's just for me to say thank you. Thank you to the attendees for joining us this morning. I know it's never easy to join in on a webinar on a Saturday. There's a lot to do, but thank you. I hope it was fruitful, and we will see you next time. We will communicate on our website, any other new events, but please just keep looking in and keep seeing if there is something new that we will be posting. So thank you very much. Thanks, Cynthia, for the technical part of this. It's always difficult with accountants because we don't know what we're doing in terms of the technical bits, but give us an Excel spreadsheet, we'll show you. But thank you, thank you everybody for this morning again. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
Thanks
Thank
everybody.
you.
Stay
Cheers.
safe.